Hello everyone, Fina here from Fina Reads, and I want to talk with you about a book series that I just finished that completely blew my mind when it comes to character studies. You know, when I read a good fantasy book, what I really like about it is experiencing the culture of that world, and then learning more about the characters. In this series, while it is historical fiction and not fantasy, did an amazing job when it comes to the character part of it. I think I could easily say this was the best character study that I've ever read in my entire life. It was incredible. And I'm talking in particular about the series called Rise of the Emperors. It's a trilogy with the books Sons of Rome, Masters of Rome, and Gods of Rome, book 1, 2, 3. You know, it was one of those happy accidents where I just got a NetGalley account about 3 months ago or something, and I saw the Gods of Rome book, and I thought, you know what, I haven't read a historical fiction set in Rome in a long time, and I was really into it. So I looked at it, I researched to make sure it's not like book 2 or 3 in a series, and then requested access to that, which was granted. And then once, when I wanted to start reading it, I realized, oh, it is book 3. And I, for whatever reason, didn't see that when I requested it. Anyway, so I downloaded book 1 and 2 from my library, and I'm so glad I did. I mean, you know, it was a situation where I was frustrated with myself of not realizing what I just did there. But then it was turned into pure amazement and enjoyment of the series, because I actually found a really good series because of that mistake. And I ended up buying all of the books already, so, you know, it was just the way how I found out about it. Anyway, so let me tell you a little bit about this series. This is a bromance, if there was ever any, set in about 300 AD. It's a little bit before 300 and a little bit after, so it's a longer time period. And our two main characters, Maxentius and Constantine, are two people that kind of meet under unlikely circumstances. They are coming from two different worlds, and they have two very different upbringings. And throughout the series, you pretty much get to know those two and what they're thinking about each other. And the book is written out of both perspectives. The chapters are switching between Constantine and Maxentius, and you always get both views on the certain topics sometimes. And the trilogy is essentially their life, starting from when they meet at a very young age, how they grow up, how they start their own families, how they follow their own lives. So it really spans multiple years. Book 1 is more focused on their coming of age story. You get to know the characters, their families, their backgrounds, what the expectations are for each one of them, and generally how they grow up. And it's, for one part, a character study of both individuals, their families, how they maneuver the politics of their families, how they maneuver just growing up in a time of war. Book 2 then merges into, okay, they are now grown up, they have their own families, how they deal with that, how they deal with external influences that are trying to push them into certain directions, how they struggle with it, and over all those time, how they are connected to each other as well. And then book 3 is kind of the climax of the story. Book 3 is the shortest time period. It's actually just a couple of days. It's a lot of war and a lot of things that relate to war. So book 3 is, if you have issues with blood and gore, it's really bloody and gory. And then the final reveal. What I really enjoyed about all of this, both authors created just characters that are so engaging and so entertaining not entertaining in a, you know, necessarily always good way. They go through so much, and you feel with them throughout the entire journey. And the authors do that in a way not to, you know, forcing you to feel something specific for the characters. It's just their life, and they are telling their life, and they are talking about what they think and what their thought process is for, I don't know, their family and certain situations within the book. And it's just so incredible that throughout all 3 books, I never felt like I could, that there's a good side and a bad side. It was always those two characters on a neutral level between the two, and just showing on how two people that should be really close are really influenced by their outside world, by their families, by politics, by their friends, you know, by political intrigue and all of that kind of stuff. And it's just from that aspect, a series that is worth reading. And in addition to that, if you're interested in ancient Rome, the authors do an amazing job on bringing that to life by using Latin words every now and then. You have a glossary at the end though. Or if you're reading it on your Kindle, you can just click on the word. That's what I do. You can click on the word and then you get like descriptions and translations and whatnot. So just be prepared to have Latin descriptions every now and then, especially when it comes to how the armies are organized. And all of that feels rather accurate. Again, I'm not an expert in ancient Rome, so I'm not 100% sure, but given that both authors pretty much only write about ancient Rome and historical fiction set in ancient Rome, I'm pretty sure it's very accurate. So if you enjoy stuff like that as well, this is an amazing series to read. And the story itself, it's pretty typical for historical fiction at that time, I'd say. It's just really the plot itself that makes it unique and interesting, right? You learn a lot about the time back then, how they ate, how they lived, how politics worked, how religion worked, how the sociocultural world was back then with Africa and Spain and Germanica and like, you know, all of these other regions connected. And it gives you a really broad view into that time back then. One of the things, and that happened in the first book, one of the things that really pulled me over was the description of family. There's a situation where one of the characters is in a situation with his son, and he is describing what he's going through related to his son. And that was the first time for me where I could relate to the feeling of parent love for their children. I never had an understanding for that because I don't have children and I never had a desire to have children. And that was the very first time where someone was able to explain to me of some sort on what it means to love a child. And I was so blown away by that description. I was so, I don't know, it was just so fascinating to read this. Not that I want children now, still no. But it was the first time that I could, you know, understand what that means. It was not just this one scene. It was in general, like political marriage, like how that works and how you relate to the other person and how you try to get closer to the other person. And there are just so many interesting plot lines related to just the character development. It's incredible. And then on top of that, think about it, it was two authors that wrote this book. And it doesn't feel at any stage of the book, it feels like it has been written by two people. You know, sometimes when you have two people or more writing a book, you can see what the one person wrote versus the other. Not in this book. It is so well done. It is so well executed. The writing is phenomenal. Just one note on the delivery. They are definitely all available on Kindle or whatever your e-reader of choice is. So I've seen it on like Barnes & Nobles for Nook. I've seen it on Amazon for Kindle. It feels like this is a series that comes out as Kindle first. At least Gods of Rome is a book that just recently was released as ebook, but I don't think it's available as a paperback or hardcover yet. And the first two books are, I think, available as hardcover, but not as paperback. I'm not 100% sure. So it's kind of the other way around. They're definitely all available on ebook if you don't mind reading that. And frankly, because of all the Latin words, it's a lot easier, I find, to, you know, if there is a Latin word, you're like, what does this mean? He explains them sometimes, but not all the times. So you can just simply click on it and then you get your explanation in your e-reader. Now that I've talked so much about a historical fiction book, I want to know from you, do you read historical fiction? Like, is this a genre that you're trying every now and then? Have you ever read historical fiction? And if so, what's your favorite historical fiction book? Because I love it. I normally read European Middle Ages, that time frame, and I know Middle Ages is very broad, so it's like across all of those. Let me know your status on historical fiction. I'm curious to know. Then don't forget to like and subscribe. You know how this all works. And then I hope I'll see you soon with my next video. Until then, have a great rest of your day. Bye.